Welcome to News with a View, a Fat Cat production. This is episode 16, January 23rd, 2025. I think we all know what year it is, but let's get going today. I'm going to try to keep this under an hour. I don't think that's going to happen, but some comments people have made. Um, to stay on topic a little bit more, finish what your train of thought is. Uh, all I know is that it's difficult to impart my wisdom through digital means so that some of you people can absorb it. All right, let's get going. NBC. This is from NBC. Faith leaders and teachers preparing for attacks after Trump allows immigration's arrest at schools and churches. Now, I don't know. I don't think anyone is going to attack people. Are they going to go where these people are? These illegals? Yeah. Yeah. And we know who you are. But they really do. And again, we're speaking about criminals, uh, the criminal element, and we're speaking about the undocumented. If you're documented and you are here and you have not committed a crime of any serious extent, you know, define serious, but uh, I don't think you have anything to worry about. But faith leaders, school administrators, and teachers in the sanctuary cities said that they will fight to protect their community after Trump administration said it will end a long-standing policy that prevented federal immigration authorities from arresting migrants in churches, schools, and hospitals. Yeah, that's crazy world. That was absolute crazy world. And we feel like it's kind of a war, to be honest, said the Reverend Kenneth Phelps, who has assisted migrants in Chicago with housing and resources in recent years. Well, um, I'm just going to say that anyone that invades a country, you have to be looked at as the enemy. And this is what happens, that sane people and people that want to follow the law, that's what they do. They go after these people, arrest them, determine if they should have been arrested, charge them, and then get them the hell out. So the Reverend Kenneth Phelps said, so we are preparing for an attack. We're not just going to wait until they do it. What does that mean? Honestly, what does that mean? We're taking the offensive and training those that are in our community to know how to handle this. Yeah, you're under arrest. Come peacefully. Or we'll put the bracelets on you and drag you in. And another thing, folks, I want you to understand this. Aiding and abetting criminals, and they're criminals. I know it's a stretch, and I know a lot of people go, oh, that's a horrible way to be. But yeah, clergy, anyone else that violates the law, you don't get a pass. And I really think they really have to not make an example out. I do not think the courts should be making, or the police, or the government should be making an example. I say it, and I said it before too. It's not an example. It is what happens when you break the law, and it's that simple. Uh, oh, one of my kitties snuck into the room here. Yeah, and this is not Fat Cat. This is not Fat Cat. This is Rags Cat, and If you give me a second, I'm going to get her out of the room. I'm not stopping it. I said I don't edit like that, so stand by, please. All right, we're back. So I don't think I don't think the courts or the police or anyone else should make an example of people. Just arrest them under the statute that you can arrest them under, and that's what should happen. If these people want to resist and take the fight, they're going to lose. The preparation is in response to Tuesday's announcement from Department of Homeland Security that it is ending that policy restricted immigration and custom enforcement agents the ability to arrest undocumented. Remember, key word here is undocumented.
Don't panic. We'll be okay.
So, the ability for the agents to collect these people, including the house of worship, schools, and hospitals, and their surrounding area. So what they're saying is that anywhere. Now, it was interesting because states said courts were off limits to make an arrest. Is that crazy? Some states did that. New York, California, Illinois. Said you can't come into our court, the legal system of this state, and make an arrest for immigration violation. And, of course, they're going after criminals. The criminals will no longer be able to hide in America's schools and churches to avoid arrest. The Trump administration will not tie the hands of our brave law enforcement personnel and instead trust them to use common sense. Now, again, common sense is a broad term. What I say is common sense might not be what you would call common sense, or the court would say common sense. So you might say, hey, my common sense says that, anyone here, they're here. Leave them alone. If they're not breaking, they're not criminals in the sense of what we think of criminals, why subject them to this? So that would be them using their common sense. That word might be a little bit too broad of a term. I like the term undocumented because we don't know who you are and what you're doing here. And that alone gives us the right. You catch someone on your property and you go, who are you? What are you doing here? Right? And call the police, or you detain them, or in the case of South Carolina, you shoot them. But that's common sense. So now from the Hill, my favorite spot to go to, the Hill. Susan Collins, senator from Maine, a Republican, told reporters Wednesday that she was concerned that the FBI background investigation about Secretary of Defense nominee Pete Hegseth is said to have omitted relevant information, such as an interview with the nominee's former sister-in-law alleging physical intimidation and drunken behavior. And Collins goes on to say, I heard from others that pertinent information has not been included, and that is troubling, Collins said. When you're making a decision about a nominee, you want to have a complete of picture as possible. Collins was referring to complaints from Senate colleagues that relevant interviews were not included in the FBI of Hegseth's background, including an interview with the alleged sister-in-law, who made alleged to a variety of misconducts conduct in an affidavit later submitted to the Senate Armed Committee. Now, the senator emphasized that she has not reviewed herself Hegseth's FBI background report because she's not a member of the Senate Armed Service Committee. Only the chairman and ranking members of that panel have access to that report. So she never read the report, but she is saying how outraged she is by what she is hearing, but never verified her information, right? Because if she didn't read it herself, and she did say, she admitted, I didn't read the report, then don't comment on it. Don't comment on it. Because you look stupid. And that is stupid and foolish. You know, I heard colleagues say, tell us what colleagues. Tell us the colleagues that said that. I mean, that's just being irresponsible. And that questions me. I never liked her anyway. I would have rather had a Democrat sitting there than her. So, and that's just my 2 cents. And you know what my 2 cents is worth. Now to a CNN report. Trump pardons D.C. officers convicted in a death and cover-up. Donald Trump has issued a full and unconditional pardon to Washington, D.C. Police Lieutenant Andrew Zabavsky, and Officer Terrence Sutton for their roles in the death of 20-year-old Corrine Halton Brown, a case that drew protests on the heels of the murder of George Floyd. Still have that cough, folks. In October of 2020, Sutton and Zabavsky of the Metropolitan Police Department spotted Halton Brown driving a moped without a helmet on, which is a violation, just to begin with, and pursued him at high speeds until he was eventually struck and killed by an uninvolved motorist. So they were chasing him to give him a ticket or to stop him or to arrest him for driving illegally, and he took off, and the police chased him. Again, what are the police supposed to do? Not chase people that, I stopped them and they drove off. That's another case that's happening, just so you know, I think in Texas. Where the person, takes off and, you have to make a decision there. Do I pursue or not pursue? All right. If you don't pursue and that person had done something horrendous and you had him, I mean, you're not doing your duty. If you're going to make a decision after you start chasing them, hey, this is getting real dangerous. The guy was just riding a moped without a helmet on. All right, maybe we'll put some eyes up ahead and we'll see. But, I'm not driving 105 miles an hour to chase this guy on a moped as he's squiggling down the street. So that's really what the incident was, and the police covering up the incident, according to investigators, turning off their body cameras, tampering with the scene, and misleading their commanding officers about the nature of the incident. So, and that's a problem. If you said, hey, I was chasing him, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to go, yeah, all right, that guy can go. That guy over there, I'm getting him. So, for whatever reason, they were afraid to tell the truth. Now, maybe there was I kind of remember this incident, but 5 years ago. I kind of remember the incident, but I don't know what the protocols are for the Metropolitan Police Department in pursuit. Every jurisdiction has a policy on, just how far you can take things. So, Sutton was found guilty of second-degree murder, conspiracy to obstruction of justice, and was sentenced to 66 months in prison. The same jury found Zavascki guilty in conspiracy obstruction of justice, and he faced 48 months behind bars. So Trump has unconditionally pardoned these two police officers with an unconditional pardon. By having the pardon, of course, they were found guilty, but they were pardoned of any of their actions. So that gets washed away. But it's interesting, and people say, hey, if this kid would have just taken the ticket, or, the cops say, hey, walk that thing home, you can't ride it without a helmet. But this article didn't state how many times this individual might have been stopped for doing this. Now, again, did the police know him? Was he on their radar? Or was just like, I see a kid, on a moped that's not supposed to be on the street, and now he has no helmet, and he's obviously not responsible because he's breaking the law to begin with. The police, now have to be trained counselors. They have to be able to make a split-second decision. And I think that's asking a lot. How about, 98% of the people follow the law. And never have a problem with the police. And if they are stopped, they comply. And, you don't have a situation. That's just me. All right. Now, I got to go to Fox News. And, of course, they slant the news towards the way they want it to be presented. Leaders in one Southern California city fed up with the state's immigration policy, which the state can't have an immigration policy, just so you know. You're not allowed to. Only the federal government can have an immigration policy. So already I got a problem with these states. Have voted to become a non-sanctuary city and ignore the state's sanctuary laws, which those laws are illegal. And if they want to follow them, an illegal law, then they should be arrested. The people that are telling the rank and file, you got to follow this. Every one of those rank and files take an oath too, like police, uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of wherever they are. If the state constitution has that in it, but it's wrong, then, of course, federal always filters down to the state. The resolution was approved by the Huntington Beach Council on Tuesday night by a unanimous 7-0 vote. Mayor Pat Burns, who introduced the legislation, non-sanctuary cities for illegal immigrants for the prevention of crime. Now, I also want to state not every illegal, undocumented, that's just really is undocumented, is a criminal. It's just not the case. I would say the majority of these people had no other access into the United States, so they just came over, and they work, and they work theoretically illegally, but they work, and uh, you know they're good people. I don't walk up to anyone and ask them their immigration status, so I don't know. But in the case, I do see a lot of Mexicans or a lot of people, Hispanic, going back, and you don't know if they're from Mexico or they're from, you know, Central America or South America. Don't know. But they're working, and they work hard, and they go to our stores and spend money, and they pay sales tax, and they, for the most part, are driving registered vehicles, paying insurance, you know, trying to live the life. But they're undocumented, which makes them illegals. Doesn't, in the sense, yes, they are criminals. But in the sensibility that we use to say what is a criminal, to us, and that's someone who breaks our common law. And for years we've been desensitized on the fact that immigrants, are immigrants, but these aren't immigrants. These are undocumented aliens. So we have to get back to some of our basic language structure to say immigrants are documented. They might not be citizens yet, but they're documented. We know they're here. Illegals are people that came over, no documentation. We have no idea who these people are, how they're living, and what their story is. So, Mayor Pat Burns said that the move was a matter of public safety. Yeah, I don't know about that. But it is. This is the best interest of our community, Huntington Beach, to make sure we utilize every facet of law enforcement we can to make it the best place to live. Burns, a former law enforcement officer, said Tuesday's meeting alongside a small bust sculpture of President Donald Trump. All right. I mean, I guess if he sold gold sneakers, he sold statues of himself. But the move directs the city police officers to work with federal immigration authorities and notify immigration officials when they're about to release an illegal immigrant from jail. It should be an undocumented illegal, but because being documented doesn't protect you from doing something illegal, of course. But if these illegal immigrants are released from jail, ICE has to be notified. Now, before that, ICE couldn't be notified that they were going to jail. And I don't know, more than likely, there is not a spot on their police arrest record or computer that says these are illegals or undocumented, people. And how would the police know when they're releasing them that this guy's undocumented? See what the problem is? Because garbage in, garbage out in computer type thing, if you did not have that data field to rely back on and say, hey, I just want to search, pull me up everyone that's undocumented that you've arrested that couldn't prove that they were citizens. And I'm certain in California, New York, and everywhere else, there's not a little checkbox for that. So it comes down to your guess is as good as mine. And the easiest way to go after them is go after the criminals that are in the system. And, Biden had a list of 1.6 million people. So, we know who you are. This resolution deliberately sidesteps the governor, Newsom, efforts to subvert the good work of our federal immigration authorities and to announce the city's cooperation with the federal government. The Trump administration and Border Czar Tom Homan's work. We're going to stand behind them, the city said in a news release. Well, should always stand behind, the federal authorities. And I think a lot of the stuff, I said this now 3 times, that a lot of things that Trump is doing, as far as with immigration, is going to hit a snag, and the robes are going to have to come in there. But the robes can fix this very easily by saying undocumented. If you're undocumented, everything stops. All you have to do is we can't find you anywhere. Now, they could say I filled something out and stuff, I mean, there'll be a lot of that. But they're undocumented, and that throws them into a different category. And again from Fox News, a Democrat who called Trump an existential threat to democracy, now blocking nominees. So this is the Senate. It's Chris Murphy, Democrat from Connecticut, says that he is making the Senate take the full 2 days of deliberation and questioning of each one of Trump's nominees. As per the rules, they say up to 2 days. And I think on some special circumstances, they could probably take a vote and extend that out, but not unreasonably. So the Democrats are fighting the nominations of Trump. How surprising. Did we not, the Republicans not do the same thing with Biden's picks and stuff? So, yeah, this is how they work. They want to go on record as saying, we didn't like this guy, and look what happened. He turned out to be the worst, and, Trump had to let him go, or whatever. Say, we told you, this is why we didn't want him. And that's all that's doing. And they can go back to their voters and go, see, I fought that. But they rubber stamped it, and it got through. But we gave it the good fight, but we couldn't convince those other painted red people that didn't care about the truth. Hey, that's the way it goes. So, he says we're not going to bypass lengthy procedural votes that are routinely skipped. He goes, and this happened to be on John Ratcliffe, who had been vetted in the past by the Senate, by a majority of those people sitting there. But we're going to take the 2 days. Chairman Tom Cotton, Republican from Arkansas, great guy. Really like a lot of things that he does. I know there was, allegations against him, and they had pushed through people and proved them in 1 day. We said, yeah, this, Marco Rubio, hey, welcome aboard. Asked some questions, had a couple of chuckles, and did it. So Tom Cotton had said, hey, on the chamber, but the senators from Connecticut has decided to object at the last minute. Well, that's what they can do. That's what they can do. So, he had a problem with that. Cotton had said we had voted 14-3. It was a vote, and The Select Committee intelligence continued. During his objection, Murphy said there were serious concerns from some Democrats about Trump's CIA pick, John Ratcliffe. I don't think it's too much to ask, and make sure that we have a full, real debate that lasts 2 days on the Senate floor. And that's because Donald Trump presents an existential threat to democracy. Really. Really. The man who used the Constitution, the man that used his rights, is a threat to democracy. Not the people that took a vote for a nominee for the president and then disregarded it, and then at their national convention voted for whoever, ordained someone. That wasn't a threat to democracy, right? Because our principle, our guiding principle is the vote. And, well, not this time, right? Not this time. And we don't legally have to do the vote. We're not compelled to do that legally. And they are absolutely correct. That is a primary. That is not held to the same standard of voting. It becomes a popularity contest. So, but the idea of voting is paramount, core to our republic. And Democrats, when I say they, the Democrats, just ignored it. So, you tell me who's the real threat to democracy in the picture that we're looking at. Sure as hell isn't Donald Trump. And he went on to say he has advertised he is going to transition this country from a democracy to a dictatorship, Murphy said. And he said that in the July appearance on CNN. So they're taking it and now filling in the blanks on a news story. Now, the Senate failed on Wednesday to invoke cloture on a bill legislating care for infants born during an attempted abortion. And, on the look at it, you'd go, all right, it's very rare that during an abortion the fetus survives. Because if you ever looked at how they do an abortion, the first thing they do is they go and if the fetus has been defined, they snip the head off. Yeah. Well, what do you think happens? What do you think that fetus, have you ever seen a fetus at 10, 12, 14 weeks? That's just a baby that hasn't fully grown yet. So they go in there and they surgically put snippers in and they do it. Now, since you could do late-term abortions, and it does happen, you could go in and during the process the baby is delivered. And what they have been doing is just cutting the umbilical cord and letting the baby pass. And what this bill was to do is that if you have a live birth and that fetus is alive, now it's not a fetus anymore. Now it's a living being. It's taking its first breath of air. It's breathing on their own. You have to preserve the life. So the Senate wanted a law, or wanted to push it through, calling it the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. I say that 5 times fast. The bill requires that healthcare practitioners to provide the same legal degree of professional skill, care, and diligence for a child born alive during an attempted abortion, as they would provide for a normal child delivery. Healthcare practitioners who failed to comply with the law would face fines up to 5 years in jails or both. House Republicans passed their version of the bill when they retook the control in 2023, and the Democrats have routinely criticized born alive bills as being redundant because killing an infant who was born alive following an attempted abortion is already illegal. All right. I mean, it's already illegal. Though Republicans gain control of the Senate, their 53-47 vote majority does not give them enough votes for 3/5 majority. 60 votes are needed for this for the cloture. 60 votes were needed, but the Republicans now have on record those senators who are fine with murdering breathing, living babies. All right? Now, here's my opinion on this. And I'm looking at it as strictly constitutional, not the morality of it. I have my morality, you have your morality. But my feeling in this matter is, like I say here now, is purely constitutional. Did not the Supreme Court rule that abortions are a state issue? So it follows the logic that all things abortion should flow down to the states. The states can make laws, and they have on this matter. The Senate, federal Senate, should not be meddling where it undoes state rights. Donald Trump said, "I'm a huge proponent that states control their people." The state, the federal government doesn't have a say over everyone locked in step. In that instance, so my feeling was that the Senate should stay away from anything to do with abortions and just let the states, their legislators, handle that. Because to me, that's the right thing to do. If the state says we're fine with this, as a law, great. If they say no, it's already covered, that they have to do it, and we don't need a redundant law like this. We already have a law, so and our law might be stronger than your law, but it's state, and the state has the rights. There you go. All right, GMA, Good Morning America, reported 7 San Antonian police officers were shot one by one, responding to a 9/11 call late Wednesday about a family member in distress and needing immediate help at an apartment in San Antonio. According to police, none of the injuries to the officers are life-threatening as of this report. The shooter was found dead after several hour standoff with the police, and a male in his 40s, who is yet to be identified by the police at this time, was found dead. That cause was not determined if he was shot by the police or he took his own life. So we won't know that till later. But what we do know is the alleged suspect involved in the shooting had been arrested on January 18th for 2 charges of assault and driving while intoxicated. Now, when he was charged with assault, did they ask, did he own guns? Did he have to, as part of his bonding out, would have to bring the guns in, or make them, give them to the court? Because I know in New York, even in a domestic, guns were taken, and if you were arrested on assault charges and you had guns were confiscated. He was currently out on bond, according to San Antonio Police Chief Mick Maness. Out on bond, for assault and then goes on a shooting spree. Not knowing what the protocols are for San Antonio when it comes to arresting people for assault, which, you assault someone or you get charged with assault, that's pretty serious. That's a serious crime. Because I don't know if he assaulted someone with a baseball bat or, he just shoved someone. So you don't know what that was. But normally when assault means that you acted in a manner where you got physical. You made contact. So I don't know what their standards are to say, we need to investigate this person and see if they have any weapons. All right. And out of Fox News, we're back to Fox News. A law enforcement expert is poking holes in the now former Biden administration's Department of Justice repeated claims that violent crime sank to a 50-year low record in his term, saying the agency manipulated data to reach that conclusion. In 2024, the Biden administration repeatedly claimed that violent crime was at a 50-year low based on the FBI statistics. And the FBI defines the following as violent crimes: murder, manslaughter, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. Now, they were charged with assault. I don't know if it was aggravated. Again, not a lawyer. I don't know which each classification is, but usually you hear the word assault and, perks your eyes up to go, this guy must have laid his hands on him. So, but Ken Axelrod, a security expert who served 26 years as a Nashville, Tennessee police officer, said the former administration manipulated data to reach a certain outcome. Now that's true. Data loves to be manipulated, and you can take things and the way the FBI, and they did change their reporting methodology of what was what was a crime, what was violent, and so forth. And we have that, but how the states reported it, that came into because robbery could be breaking into a car. They robbed the car. They break into your home, robbed your home. A business, robbed a business, and you just can't tell me that in the last 4 years that has gone down. I speak to police officers all the time. I speak to ex-border agents, and they all say, "Hey, the data was skewed, and that hasn't changed yet." So we'll see what Kash Patel does when he becomes director and how he advises crimes to be reported to the FBI. The way the statistics are developed in the police departments around the nation sends all their Category 1 crimes, which are violent crimes, to the FBI. And then the FBI develops a nationwide statistic. But the changes happen when a new administration comes in and they change the reporting conditions. Like I just said, you can take the data and it can be manipulated. And data loves to be manipulated. And you could come up with all different statistics. And I remember in school while taking some basic accounting courses and things. And, this teacher saying, watch out for chart weasels. People that use charts and numbers and all this. because got to look at them very carefully at what they're using as their common denominator, or what they're using to get to their conclusion. Because he said you could have two, you could have someone take 2 plus 2 and it doesn't equal 4, and you know it should equal 4, but they're going to show you a way that it doesn't. And his famous quote was, figures never lie, but liars always figure. So, I know when I was treasurer of a credit union, I was very aware not to skew numbers and point them towards a different direction than they were really going, and saying, well, that's the criteria I picked, and that's how I got to that number. Um, you made money or you didn't make money. That's the bottom line. And, my credit union made money. We were capital. Weren't, for the last 7 years, profitable. But we had enough stashed away. We were good little ants and not grasshoppers. We put that money away that we made, and we put that into what's called undivided earnings, meaning that that money was sitting there, and we could either give it to the members through dividends or spend it on capital projects, and we didn't spend much money. So we put that money away, and we held on to it for those rainy days, which lasted 7 years until we were taken over. And that wasn't due to any, malfeasance on our part. It's just that we went from a pool of people of about 6,000, all in all, down to about a pool of people of about 1,500. And we couldn't compete against, 12 neighborhood banks, that our members had to walk to get to our credit union. Zero interest loans, or, car loans. That's what really killed a lot of, hurt a lot of credit unions, was car loans. When the automotive industry became their own lender, and Ford Credit, Dodge, anyone, they all had their own credit departments, and then they take that and sell it off, or even we can give you 0 and give you this money back, or you take 5.2 and you get this back, and we couldn't do that. We didn't have that type of volume. We didn't have that type of reach. So, but data loves to be manipulated, and that happens all the time, and you have to be prepared to look at that and know what the base numbers were and how they got there. So the FBI manipulating data, this is why, and the FBI has always been squirrely, all the way back to the days of J. Edgar Hoover. That it really operated in the dark, and could do a lot of things. I remember what ended up happening is the CIA was spying on its own citizens here in the United States, and that was not allowed. And the FBI should have been doing it, but the FBI was in cahoots, and there was a whole thing. And I don't think the FBI really got over the stigma. And the FBI, now that you look at it, I mean, again, they have the reach of so much data and deep pockets that, most people can't fight a federal charge. And that's why there's so many plea bargains in the Department of Justice. Because you can't, for the most part, if the feds got you, they got you, and they'll make it stick. And most people don't have the resources to fight that. And, President Trump did. He had the resources, he had the lawyers, but that's a rarity. I think the statistic is like, and I'll find it out, but it's almost like a 90% conviction rate if the Department of Justice takes you to, if you fight them. Where how many people make deals with them to plead, you know, he was charged with 18 counts, but we're only going to 17 get dropped and one. The one that we really wanted to go after him for, that's the one we're going to charge him with. And so that the government doesn't have to spend the money to do a lengthy trial. And then, always you're going to appeal. If you lose it, you appeal. So this way they get you to allocate to the crime. They get their little check mark, and they save the whole gob of money and then go look somewhere else. So, I'm not a huge fan of the FBI, but then any big agency like that, it has a life of its own. All right, with that, I said I'm going to make this short today. This will probably go up about 6:30, 7 o'clock tonight after I do some editing, and I'm still taking cold medicine like crazy, so probably going to take a nap after this. All right. As always, prayers for our hurricane victims, prayers for our fire victims. If you're going to donate money to them, which I hope people do, because the government can do it, but you give it to a real charity and they'll get it on the ground quickly to these people. So make sure you use a registered charity. Don't be a victim helping a victim. So with that, I'm going to say adios till tomorrow, and we'll have another one out the door tomorrow, and we hope to catch you back, and be well, everyone. And I'm going to just say goodbye and fade to black.